Street in Brooklyn, but we make them right here at the Brill Building. Oh, Mikey, look!
We're up.
Doing.
I must give credit where credit is due. My shirt today was purchased for me by my loving sister Diana, who returned not long ago from Britain and bought this Beatles shirt at Abbey Road.
Lower your camera down a little bit so we can see it.
It says,
"Oh,
the Beatles" with Apple Records. You don't
it
look
was
bluish.
really cool to. That's a very cool shirt, by the way. It was really cool to
wearing
see.
it for the first time.
What?
I'm wearing it for the first time.
It was really cool to see the Apple Corps logo at the end of a release.
Yeah.
You know, when I watched the Now and Then, they obviously the Beatles is released under Apple, and it was just nice to see. It was just such a throwback Thursday, you know, when they released that thing, because there were just so many things going. You know, for people of our age, there were just so many things going through our minds about Beatles songs and so on and so forth, and boom, all of a sudden, you're transported back to a time.
This apple reminds me of the apples that the Blue Meanies were using in Yellow Submarine, and they were bonking people.
Isn't that where that came from?
Maybe. It looks like it to me.
Yeah, I think that's where the whole Apple thing came from. Now, I wonder.
Well, I thought that they liked to play on words, Apple Core.
Yeah, no, see, I thought the actual physical logo came from those, the Blue Meanie things. I'm sure the answer is in a book somewhere. I just don't know.
Of course, the Blue Meanies talking to each other would say, "You don't look bluish."
Yeah, couldn't get away with that today. You'd be censured.
By the way, I'm recommending a media super watch. If you have Netflix, there's a new piece that's out called All the Light. I want to get this correct. All the Light You Cannot See. It's from a novel of the same name. And it's a 4-episode piece on Netflix, which takes place in Saint-Malo, France, during the occupation of France by the Nazis.
Huh.
And it stars somebody we do know. If you ever liked House on television, that was the British actor Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie, yes.
Who for years and years was a comedic actor and still is. And he plays Uncle Etienne, a man who saw too much during World War I and never left the house. But during World War II, there's not much he could do about it. His sister, who took care of him, was the head of the resistance in Saint-Malo. We find this out later. And a German actor, by the way, who was born and raised and trained in Berlin, named Lars Eidinger, Eidinger. Now, we've all seen some evil SS men played in movies.
Yeah.
But Lars Eidinger takes the cake. He takes the dress, Hugo Boss SS uniform. He takes the movie by his gloved hand. And it's one of the tour de force performances of a German by a German that's ever been done. He is a remarkable Satan of a man. Oh. He is evil. And to make it worse, and I'm not giving anything away because he tells you this, he's dying and he needs something that he thinks is going to save his life and make him live forever. That's because he's on so much morphine for the cancer that he's got that this is the opinion that he has. And he's looked all over Germany and France for this one thing that he can't find, that he assumes is going to make him live forever. It is a fantastic edge of your seat romp through World War II. And I recommend it highly. All the light you cannot see.
I'm a
And it
World
has a
War
lot
II guy, so
and
I
it has a
will.
lot to do with something that we both love, Vinny, radio and broadcasting late at night to people who were listening, but he didn't know they were listening. So I won't tell you anything more. You can see how this thing's going to turn out right from the beginning, but you can't stop watching. And I doff my cap and I stand in rapt appreciation of the acting job that Lars Eidinger did during this movie. You may say, "Oh, it's so easy to play an SS man. Everyone hates you anyway." Yeah, okay, I
I
understand
don't
that
know that
point of
it's
view,
easy.
but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there's it is hard to play in the sense that you try, you have to get people sympathetic with you in some sense because you want to show your humanity, that they're humans, like everybody else. Just how could these humans turn so inhuman? Um,
How
what?
did they do it? Why did
Yeah,
they
how
do
did
it?
they do it? What happened to make them become literal monsters?
Well, part of that is answered in the training school that one of our heroes attended in Germany. Uh, I'm tempted to tell you more, but I won't. All the light you
Don't
can
tell me anymore.
all the
Because
light
I'm
you
going to
cannot
watch it.
see. It's going to be it's just the best damn thing I've seen in a long time for intensity, for historical accuracy, and for some excellent acting.
All
And
right,
I'll
I
tell you one
will.
thing that you can watch for when you watch the film, when you watch the element. Look what the um, computer generated genius behind the movie did to the eyes of this one German character. They did something to his eyes. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, don't tell me anymore. Let's see.
Now, what this reminded me of is one of the elements of the German Reich was to go through the conquered countries, take their art, take their jewels, take their intelligentsia, take their professors, take their history, take the remnants of their culture, bring it back to Germany. And while they kept it there, by means of owning it when it wasn't theirs, they defiled it. And that word came up in my mind over and over again last night. How, with so many comparisons have been made to the dictators of the world and Donald Trump, accurate comparisons. What he does is he takes the law, he takes your vulnerability, he takes your concern about your family, he takes your confusion over politics, he takes your ambivalent Americanism, he draws it close to him to Trump Tower, and that's where he defiles it. He is a defiler of culture and of memory and of consciousness and of awareness. Donald Trump defiles everything that he touches or addresses or draws close to or rests near. By driving by your house, he has defiled your neighborhood. By touring your state, he has defiled the borders of the great state of whatever you're in. By appearing to be a politician, he defiles politics. And the dark men that he draws around him, each one, like the Nazis in this film, are made more vulnerable, more merciless, more dangerous, and they too easily and willingly defile everything they touch.
Well, I always, again, I go back to to always wondering, and maybe that's just a thing that I have, but I always wonder what turns these people into what they are. Now, Donald Trump is a different case because he's been a sociopath as long as I can remember. I mean,
Probably
he
from
probably
birth,
was a sociopath when he was 6 years old.
3 years old.
Whatever he did, however he went about his youth, whatever his father did to him, it turned him into a sociopath. Um,
I'm going to make you rich,
although,
but I'm not going to love you. And this is going to work on you every day that you're alive. It's my gift to you. You are my son. You're a part of the family. You're a Trump. I do not love you.
Right. Little did we know that little did we know that it turned, it would turn out to affect the entire world as much as it has. You talk about building a monster. This is truly a monster. Now, you have to hope that what happened last night and yesterday in the elections was another sign that people, or at least normal people, however you want to define normal, that at least normal people are wising up to the fact of what this guy is
Good
through the
point.
rejection of his candidates once again.
We forget so easily, Vinny, and in our despair doing the show, sometimes we forget quickly. There's more of us than there are of them, and that's how the world has managed to stay spinning in its right trajectory, even through World War II, where there was more than one evil person afoot. There's more of us willing to do the right thing than there are those who love to do the wrong thing and defile our existence on this planet.
Yeah, but as we find out, if you look back in history at many of these fascist and Nazi and all different sorts of strongman dictatorships that try to take over countries and so on and so forth, it's not the majority of the people. It's a strong minority that are able to get in and change rules and move things around and change the landscape to go their way. Now,
that's a good example of the House of Representatives right now. They are a minority that holds a majority, and scum like Mike Johnson and all the rest of his cohorts are in the minority, but they think and they operate and they proceed through each day as if they're in the majority.
Well, they think that. Very true. They do think that they have been anointed with this. I don't know, this mandate, this manifesto, if you want. They always use the word manifesto when it comes to mass shooters. That they left the manifesto, and these congressmen are in some ways aren't much better because they're looking to kill people not with a gun but with their inaction in this country and their ability to change the rules to benefit the few.
I'm not going to use a gun, but I'm going to make it so wonderful for you to use it that I'll feel like as if I use it. It'll be as if I did
you'll
it.
Consider me a hero because you'll consider me now. That's exactly what they did with the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
In loading up the Supreme Court, that's exactly what they did. But they're now finding out that the American people are a little bit smarter and a little bit stronger. And I got to give credit to women on this one. It seems that they have been able to motivate. Way back when this happened, I said, kidding around to you, I think we were talking, and I said, the best thing women can do right now is just say, hey, you know what? No abortion rights, no sex.
It sounds like a new idea, but it's actually from ancient Greece.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to limit, if you want to limit my ability to get health care for when I am pregnant, then I am not going to do what gets me pregnant. And I think that women have a much easier time of not having sex than men do.
And keep in mind also what it's like if you've ever had a relationship where you gave somebody something. Here's your new purse. Happy birthday. Only one thing is you can't have it. I have to take it back.
Yeah.
Here's your new car, but you can't drive it. I got to take that back.
And maybe that's what's wising people up. I don't know. I haven't delved into it, but I do know that the abortion rights, or the yeah, I mean, we'll call it abortion rights. The healthcare rights people are on an amazing winning streak, and the Republicans that wanted this are getting rudely awakened to a point where this thing is going to get codified in some length of time. I mean, it's already codified in Ohio. You want to do it state by state, we'll do it state by state. Or in 2024, we're going to go down ballot. We're going to elect a majority of Democrats like you've
Wake
never
up,
seen before.
wake up, Jim Jordan. That's your state.
And this will be, and we will codify it. We will get a constitutional amendment that guarantees a woman's right to choose her health care.
It's either that or a man's right to choose what a woman gets to do. You have to run it by men.
I mean,
you got to run it by guys in suits.
Well, a fallacy in that, though, Michael, is that there's a lot of women that are choosing this as well. That there are a lot. It's not just men that are writing these laws. It's not just men on the Supreme Court. You have women on the Supreme Court that voted for this too. You have women in the Catholic Church that are putting pressure on. You have women legislators that are doing this too. So it's not a gender thing as much. I mean, certainly it has been in the past.
And the mind control of the conservative American right wing.
It's the Phyllis Schlaflys. It's the Anita Bryants. It's the those people who are women, but they have allied themselves or did ally themselves with the Christian right, with men who want to control them, which to me is one of the weirdest things in the world.
Well, if you were a Baptist preacher, you could say, look what I can do. I can make them dance. I can make them cry. I can make them come on Sunday. I can make them wait. I can make them regret things. I can make them confess. I can make these people do anything. It's the Lord speaking through me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to piss off the Lord.
Yeah. And people are finally wising up to that. People are finally saying, wait a minute, if you take away this right, if you say that I can't do this, what is not for you to, next year tell me that I can't do something else, or I can't move from state to state, which in this, and this is one of the things that I think has really pissed people off, is that not only have they legislated it so you can't have an abortion, or you have to go through all of these hoops, but they've also made it so that if somebody advises you, if a doctor helps you out, if somebody drives you to another state, that you can be arrested, convicted, and put in jail for that too. So now you're restricting the freedom of movement of people, not just taking away health care, but you're telling people that you can't move. You can't go from state to state.
And the penalties are the doctor goes to jail. The woman goes to jail. The healthcare provider in the other state gets prosecuted by a state that has no jurisdiction over him. This is the world that they're looking for. This is the world that they're looking for.
This is Nazi Germany.
And it reminds me of Nazi Germany. You know how radio waves have no way of knowing when the border is near. The radio goes wherever it goes. It was punishable by death in Germany during the war to listen to a radio broadcast from another country.
Right.
Punishable by death. That's how strictly they controlled the ideas that ran that country. That's how fearful they were of anybody from another nation sending a radio broadcast over the border.
And it's probably only a matter of time unless people unless people get up and do something about it, unless people come to realize that you can't just sit there and let it happen, that you can't just say, well, that's too bad.
That's
because
awful.
The too bad is eventually going to be knocking at your door.
looking for you.
And as much as you want to, listen, I'm not a person that agrees that people should have abortions. I don't, I mean, my feelings on it, but my feelings on it don't matter. But I'm certainly not in a position to tell you that you shouldn't have one, or you, or you, or you. That is your business.
And it's good to see you this morning, Dr. Brown. You went to school. You're a great doctor. I'm going to put you in jail for practicing medicine. That's what I'm going to do.
Well,
I'm
that's it. You
I'm a
have
politician.
emergency room physicians who are afraid of treating women who are having miscarriages. Where do you, I mean, how in the world do you get to that place?
That's where we are. Well, by the laws that govern us, by the men who make those laws, by the strange, twisted ideas that fostered the writing of those laws, by the police in the streets and the bullet head sheriff who enforce those laws, and by someone with a higher education whose job is to save life and who takes an oath to first do no harm. That person goes to jail, while all the others run free, armed to the teeth, full of their anger and their judgments and their Republican ignorance.
Well, maybe there is a point where people say they have had enough. And I think maybe we are, listen, I think that since the Dobbs decision, which overruled Roe versus Wade, the the pro life people, and I hate to go with pro life and
it's a misnomer. It's war is peace, strength
right.
is ignorance.
If they're pro life, they would have they would be out there screaming for gun control. If they were pro life, they would be screaming to take away guns from people. But they're not pro life. They have found an emotional issue that pulls at the heartstrings of many. Well, you know what?
It's pro control.
The women's rights people have found an emotional issue that pulls at the heartstrings of many.
Right.
And that was probably had so much to do with it. The people that they trotted out there that said, I was raped by my stepfather. And under Cameron's administration, I would have to have the baby.
That's what the Lord wants. He told
or the girl in Ohio who was 10 years old and had to go to another state. Well, 10 or 11, something like that, 13, maybe, I forget the exact age, but had to go to another state to get an abortion because she was impregnated by some guy. I think actually she was raped, to be honest with you. And in the old days, they wouldn't trot these people out. They would cloak them in secrecy. But now, the what's at stake is so important that these people are standing up, and they are saying, "I was attacked by my stepfather." I mean, you know what guts it takes to stand up and say that.
And Vinnie, some stepfathers are monsters, and some representatives of the people of the state of Louisiana are monsters, true monsters, who take an awful experience and someone in terrible trouble, and they defile them once again.
Well, I don't think that's just Louisiana, Michael. I think that's, I'm sure you could go down the road here in Washington State and find it, and up the road in California and find it.
I chose Louisiana because it's Mike Johnson's state.
Yeah.
I'm not through with him yet.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's something that happened. Well, I don't know. I don't have any stats to back it up, but I would just say that it probably happens in the South a lot more than many other parts of the country, but I'm pretty sure that it happens in a lot of different parts of the country. I don't
Of
think
course
the
it
South
does.
has a monopoly on that. But what the South is trying to do is, I mean, how if you're a Christian, God fearing man, do you or woman, do you look at a 13-year-old kid who got knocked up by her stepfather and say, you got to have that baby? Are you telling me that God created that baby by that means?
Well,
So
they
that's
have to.
one of
They have.
God's creatures?
They
Is
have
that
to.
what you're telling me? Because that's not a God I want a part of.
Well, that's the God that they talk to every Tuesday. That's the God that speaks to the preacher man. That's the God that speaks to the deacon
That's
and the
yeah.
parson.
I want the God that runs Catholic charities and goes out and helps homeless people, and I want the God that runs the food bank down at the church.
Well, the God you're going to get is the God who takes all the gold from the church and he weighs it and knows how much it's worth and puts it away and make sure that he's tax deductible.
Always
That's
seems that it's
that
man, doesn't it?
that's the God that we're dealing with. The God that man is always the interpreter of what God wants. God speaks to only certain men who have the calling. Oh, they've got the calling all right.
Well, you see, and I've never been, I've never ascribed to that. I mean, I believe in God, but I think that God and religion is much more how you live your life, what you do.
Well, attached to every religion is the interpreter, the middleman, the fawning fool in the middle.
That's probably why I don't go to church every Sunday, Michael. It's
Because you
probably why
and look how it
I
works.
pray to God, but
Everybody
I don't
comes
go to
in.
church every Sunday.
Everybody comes in quiet, sits in the rows, does what he tells them. Who's up front? Some guy in robes do it this way, do it that way, get up, sit down, get on your knees. All right, out, everybody out. Everybody out. I got to talk to God, and He has to talk to me. And I'll let you know if anything important comes down. Other than that, it's next Sunday, same time.
Well, yeah, I'm just when you grew up around the Catholic Church and you saw and heard of some of the stuff that was going on, it makes it a lot harder to believe. But yet, when you pray and your prayers get answered, it makes it easier to believe. I guess it's all a perspective of what you get out of it. But long ago, I realized that a guy running around in robes up in front of a church, a group of people. Is not the God that I know. The God that I know is the woman who goes down and fires up her barbecue down by where all the homeless tents are, and pulls out a bunch of hamburger out of a cooler and cooks it up and starts feeding people. The woman who used to go to the park in Berkeley all the time, not Berkeley, in Oakland, and feed all of homeless people. That was God to me. That was God working.
Well,
Um,
the priest and the deacon and the representatives of their church would do that, Vinny. They know it's the right thing to do, and they would do that, but they're very busy. Their hands have to be clean. They can't be seen with hamburger on their hands or charcoal briquettes. That's not for them. It's a calling, but you got to stay in the rectory. You got to drive the Ford. What kind of car would a priest have?
oh, an LTD.
Ford LTD.
Yeah, Ford LTD or Chevy Impala would be the. Although Father O'Connor used to drive a '67 Cadillac with personalized plates on it. I remember that parked in the rectory driveway.
What were the
He had a
plates?
black two-door '67 Caddy with I think it was EOC was the plate, EOC something, and that car was always parked. I guess he was the guy that went out and did the last rites at the hospitals and stuff like that, or when somebody was dying, he was the guy that went out and did it. And I guess it was profitable because he had a brand new Cadillac doing it.
He was working off a percentage of the deal.
But
you do it.
Most of the priests that I knew had Impalas or LTDs, or one priest, matter of fact, he used to fix his car in Brooklyn when I had the place in Brooklyn, had a Dodge Dart.
That's more like it. That's more symbolic of the simple life.
Yeah, I mean, I had a Dodge Dart. I just, but most of them had full size American cars. And yeah, I always wondered why Father O'Connor had a caddy. That was always, how could you be living there making no money? Because we all thought priests made no money in those days, and driving a caddy.
Did it ever occur to you that God wanted him to be comfortable, more comfortable than you, more comfortable than the people down the street, more comfortable than the homeless in the park? God
I mean, that did occur to me because they used to have, the rectory always had maid service, and it had, they always had the woman, Mrs. Shalali, who worked the rectory, and she'd be making up the beds and cleaning the house and cleaning the floor and being down in the basement. And Mrs. Shalali would always be taking care of the priests, doing the shopping at the A&P. There was always two or three housekeepers in the rectory.
I don't know what happens to it. We just can't keep that sacramental wine in the closet. We try.
Well, the nuns, I guess, did all of their own housekeeping in the convent.
Well, that's the way God has divided labor.
I guess that's
among his children.
I always wondered about that too. I was always like,
That's why at the end of the service they don't take questions. Any questions?
Yeah, yes, no, Father. They don't take. No, it's never.
Yes, Father. About that Cadillac.
There's always well, when I was a kid, there wasn't even coffee after church. Now they have these gatherings after Mass. I know in Pennsylvania they did. They had a coffee get together in the parish hall. In St. Joan of Arc, we never had anything like that. You went to church and you left. Come in, listen, drop the money in the basket, and get out of here. We got another crew coming in at 10.
We got another show. We got another show to do.
Yeah, we got shows on the hour, and we're so busy that we have two churches, one on the upper level, one on the lower level, and we keep them both busy.
One's called Ungaros, the other one's called the Copa.
I don't know, but I know that in the 60s, when I went to St. Joan of Arc, they had, both levels were going. I mean, they had, started Mass at 6 o'clock in the upper and 6:30 in the lower.
So you could hear the confusion in both levels.
And they were, going till I think 1 o'clock was the last Mass.
Tell me more about Joan of Arc. She got a raw deal. There's another woman who came too close to the priesthood for her own safety.
They didn't cotton to women as much as they do now. They didn't realize the value of a woman in those days.
And by experiment, they found out that they burn just about as long as a man, but not quite.
Not quite, yeah, not quite. Anyway, let's go back to the election last night for a couple of minutes, because I think it was a great night for America.
I think it's really indicative because it was Ohio, Vinnie. That's the thing that gets me.
Yeah, listen, I know I spent a lot of time in Ohio when I was in Pittsburgh, and it is about as, I don't know, as conservative as can be, except when Ohio was the place in 2016 where I would drive to go to either the sauerkraut making contest or the apple farm or this place and that place, and just see Trump signs all over the place.
Oh yeah. It's a
and
damaged place.
and you knew that Hillary and this country was in trouble because you drove on in through those towns, and everywhere you looked, you saw Trump signs, but you didn't see but one or two Clinton signs. And you could have looked around and said, there's something happening here. And what it is very clear, except everybody except Hillary.
Well, let's hope Joe Biden figures it out.
I don't know. The Biden thing is interesting. It's getting more interesting by the moment because you have more and more people who are saying, Joe, maybe not.
We need somebody, but maybe not you.
Well,
and that means right away that there is no somebody else. There is no second candidate. There is no alternative.
Well, there are alternatives. I mean, there
name
are.
one. Name one.
Well, right now you got Gavin Newsom, who is warming up in the bullpen like he's Tug McGraw. I mean, he's in there throwing fastballs. He's going to this country and that country and
but he ain't Tug McGraw. He's John Perginzer.
Well, whoever he is, he's warming up.
And he's John the Count Montefusco.
Well, he is warming up, and he is looking to. I think you have the guy that's been strangely silent throughout this whole thing, who I think was, in my thinking, part of his deal was that Biden was going to step aside, and Joe Manchin was going to be the guy that was going to get the anointment.
But he's got a goiter.
But I don't know what's happening there. But there are certainly people who will step in the void. It's not going to be Kamala Harris, that's for sure.
It's not going to be Joe Manchin, although I know what you mean about that.
Well,
and it could be. What other couple of candidates are we going to have? We're going to have Robert Kennedy Jr. We're going to have.
Well, he's a joke. Yeah, he's.
It ain't
anybody
funny.
Who's looking at him.
There's no punchline to that joke.
To vote for him is laughable. I mean, here's a guy that's overwhelmed by running for the job.
Good point. That's a great point.
I mean, running for the job is overwhelming.
Like Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis' latest scheme is immigration is not good for America. If it's not good for America, we can't have it. If it were good for America, we would have a lot more of it. But it's not good for us, so we don't want any of it. And I'll be the one who calls it.
Well, I'll tell you what. When you have a Native American stand up there and tell me that immigration isn't good for America, then I'll listen. But when your last name is DeSantis, when your last name is Rodriguez, when your last name is Richichi, when your last name is all of these different names that aren't Native American names, then you can tell me. Then you can't tell me that immigrant, because all of you came from immigrants.
Every damn one.
And yeah, you're right. Immigration was not good for this country. Ask any Indian. Ask any Native American if they think that immigration was good for this country. Go watch the Scorsese movie and tell me if you think that immigration was good for the country.
Watch the documentary American Buffalo if you think immigration was good for this country.
Yeah. So DeSantis may have a point, but he's not the one to deliver it.
No, he's Cuban.
He's not the one to deliver the message. Like I said, bring me a descendant of Chief Sitting Bull to tell me that immigration isn't good for the country. Then I'll believe him.
And there's not a lot of those descendants because the white man tried to kill them all.
Well, yeah, all the immigrants, for the most part, and I'm not saying it never happens, but for the most part, the people that jump the fence come over and they try to find a job and make a life for themselves in this country.
That's all they want.
I mean, yeah, are there some that come over just like there were Italians that came over and Irish people that came over, and whatever nationality came from somewhere else has figured out a way to do bad things.
Well, to do some things, here's what it was. You're denied an education, you're denied good housing, you're denied equality on the street. You must suffer under discrimination, under the catcalls that happen every day, the awful experience that you have at school, and we force you into finding a way to make a living. And
Yeah.
it happened to the Irish, it happened to the Italians, it happened to the Jews, and now it'll happen to the next wave. It's always going to be that way. That's the American way, man.
Yeah, that's so. But it's beyond me to see somebody whose ancestry came from another country to stand up like they're American.
No more. No more. No more. The borders are
Sorry,
closed.
we want to close. When it benefits our country, that's when we'll take in refugees.
And my people who came from Cuba will now be the gatekeepers. We'll make sure nobody else comes in from Cuba. We'll make sure nobody else comes in from South America. Nobody comes in from Nicaragua,
Well, where do we
from
see that
Venezuela.
today? I mean, that's what you have with Egypt and the South Gate there at the Gaza Strip.
They're going to open that gate soon.
It's not going to benefit us. What are we getting out of the deal? Now, that's never been the American. Now, we've set quotas, and at times we have restricted immigration. I don't say that there should be free immigration, that you just open up the gates and everybody comes in. But to phrase it that we'll do what benefits America, in the way DeSantis phrased it,
is disingenuous. And what America is he talking about?
well, yeah, who again, is he going to put up a board of Native Americans? And are they going to make the decisions who gets in?
That would be
no, he's going to have a
incredibly.
board of Italians and Jews and Poles and Irish and from whatever country. What he ought to just stand up there and say is, we don't want the dark-skinned people in.
That's
Now,
really
if he
what he's
stood up
saying.
and said that, I'd have more respect for him.
He'd be telling the truth, and it's such a rare thing in America to have a
Right. We don't
politician
we
telling
don't
the
want
truth.
we don't want anybody darker than me getting in.
Well, I'm
And
curious
that's a
about
winter me, not a summer me with the tan.
what you said about Gavin Newsom. By the way, he went to my high school, Redwood High. All hail Redwood High, and
Well,
honor her name, etc. But what I live in his state, and he lives in my state. What makes you think that he's a viable candidate? Because I
Michael,
don't
he's
see it
been
that way.
priming himself for it for the last 2 years.
Oh, he's priming. Yeah, he would love to be the candidate.
And I think that I think that there are a lot of Democrats who look at him. A lot of people look at him, and he's got the young, handsome, knows how to run a big government, albeit maybe not as successfully as people would like. But he runs the world's fifth largest economy.
True.
There are people out there that look at him and say he's probably, the best we got. And to his credit, he's been out there trying to educate himself on foreign policy, on foreign affairs, on other countries, on what's, more than any of the other candidates have been doing. I mean, I listened to an interview with Tim Scott last night, and good God, let's hope this guy doesn't get near the presidency.
What stumped him during the interview?
Just the general way he spoke. Number one, and his leaning on God for everything. I trust not a person that leans on God for everything when you ask them questions.
That means anti-woman, pro-gun. That's the God that
Right.
he worships.
Right. When you talk to Joe Biden, he's probably as religious as any of them, but he doesn't lean on God
I think they have
for
to
all of
fresh.
his answers. He
I
may
think they have
pray to
to.
God for his answers. You talk to Nancy Pelosi, she's probably the most religious person in Congress.
That's because in her job she saw the light.
You know, but she doesn't sit there and say, well, God told me. No. She said, I pray for guidance. I pray for the wisdom. I pray that God will show me the right way.
She
But
knows the right way.
sometimes the way God is showing me is not the way it should be. And I have to be able
The
to make up my mind based on what's good for the people, what helps people. And in that, I'm fulfilling my obligation to my religion because I'm trying to do good for people every day.
well, see, she started with the right end. She's doing something that would benefit the people, and that's an answer to the tenets of her religion. But if you do it the opposite way around, Vinny, if you let the religion drive your decisions, if you let the religion drive your
Well, yeah,
legislation, then you don't do what's best for the people. You do what's best for an old book. You do what's
that's
best
why
for
you
you do what's
have
best for the rectory and the 66 Cadillac.
that's why you have separation of church and state.
If the Republicans understood why church and state are separated, they'd be far better off. But you can see from their approach to life, they have no idea why the founding fathers said church and state must be forever separated.
Mikey, these are the people that don't have an idea what the Holocaust was.
They don't know
These
why there was
people
a
don't know what the
revolution.
Korean War was. They have no idea what the Cuban Missile Crisis was. Never mind the Bible. Never mind World War II or stuff like that, or the Nazis.
Or a king with the church in his pocket.
There's no history students here because it's not about serving the people anymore. It's about getting hits on Instagram and Twitter and social media and being a star.
The power of holding office.
That's what it's about. Not about, I want this office because I'm serving people, because I'm helping people.
You know, that's the work of a sucker. That's just
I
a
want to
sucker.
make policy. I want to point the city, the country, the state, my district in the proper direction so that it benefits not only me, but generations to come.
Well, then why is America willing to vote for a politician who wants to hold office to seek revenge and to institute control? Why would you vote for a politician like that?
Well, that's the $64,000 question now, isn't it? Because, well, again, I've said there's two things. Number one, we're as uneducated as we've ever been. What
No,
school
that's a
teaches
fact.
civics these days?
That's a fact.
When I went to school, you had to take part in elections in class. You had to take part in a government. They taught us how to be, uh, 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 how to function as a city,
I
as an
remember
elected
going to
body, as a democracy.
here in grammar school in California. I learned how the kindly Catholic Church came to California, huddled the Indians into organized groups, built missions up and down the state, converted everybody, and how happy the Miwok Indians were, how happy all the coastal
Oh,
Indians were
they were throwing parties every week.
to have their baskets and their culture and their language and their religion stripped from them under pain of death, instituted by the Catholic Church and the local governments. And then to write classic study books, social studies books about how fabulous it was. And where are those Indians? How come the missions are still there, but the Indians aren't? Oh,
Well, because
they're all been reassigned.
people like Ron DeSantis are afraid to let people know what really happened. That's why they ban these. That's why they ban books. That's why they ban knowledge.
Banning a
There's
book is good.
something wrong. Always be suspicious. If somebody doesn't want you to learn something,
That's what you better learn.
beware. If somebody says you shouldn't learn that, in my life experience, I have always found that that's the biggest red flag you can possibly get.
2 examples. It was under pain of death to listen to a foreign broadcast in Nazi Germany. You couldn't listen to a broadcast in French or in English or in Russian or in Polish or in Czech or in any other language. Pain of death. And I remember a general manager and program director, they would never let me see the hour by hours of my morning show because they didn't want me to know how high my ratings were. Those were being sold on the street, but kept secret from the staff.
Right.
Anytime someone's got information that they don't want you to know, because if it had been bad news, I'd have heard about it that day.
Well, yeah, I mean, the more that somebody can limit your knowledge, the more that they can hold you back. It's a simple equation.
That's right.
The more that somebody can say to you, you shouldn't know that, the more you get held back. And the more likely it is that you will continue things just the way they are. And isn't that the bottom line in all of it?
If you don't know
things the way they are.
Yeah, if you don't know what you should know, then you will pay for it in the long run.
Keep the man in power. Keep who's in power, and don't question it. Keep your mouth shut. Maybe what we saw last night and maybe what we saw in 2022 is an indicator that there are a large amount of people in this country, and maybe to a certain degree, and I do give Trump some credit in this, although I don't agree with him, but I do say that at least he has gotten a number of people to question things. Now, he's not the guy you want to give you the answers, but you do want to question things. And I don't know, Michael. I just, maybe I have a little more hope today than I did yesterday.
Well, Ivanka Trump was asked that question today, and she said she can't recall.
She can't recall. I asked her address. I don't really know.
I don't know where I live. I don't know where my husband is. I don't know where my children are. I don't know where my dress is. I don't know where my shoes are. I don't know where my purse is. I do not recall.
Trump, would you want to know where your husband or your father is?
I don't recall, man.
Don't you think that she'd just like to get into a little two-seater sports car with a pair of shorts and a flannel shirt and a few things in a bag in the trunk and just drive west?
Well, that's a good question, but
no cell phone.
Don't recall.
No, nothing.
How about a little cash? Would she take cash?
Yeah, probably half of that bag in the back is full of cash. But
and you could ask her about it.
I
is that bag?
I say, man, here is a woman who would just like to probably get away from it all. It's probably all now become nothing like her daddy told her it was going to be.
She was,
the boys are full of piss and vinegar.
We'll see.
They are, they're, and they're going to pay a price. But the more I look at Ivanka, I just think to myself, this is just somebody who probably just wants to get into an 80 Chevy Citation and just drive west. Nobody knows who she is. She cuts her hair. She just, puts on a pair of shorts and just goes where the weather's warm. And not Florida, New Mexico. You look for her in Taos.
Sedona,
exactly. She'll be in between some red rocks in Sedona, holding her hands out and trying to feel for the sun. Get away from Jared. Get away from her fall. I mean, she doesn't stand a chance, that woman.
No.
I mean,
But asked how she feels about it all, the answer is, I do not recall.
yeah, I do not recall. You wouldn't want to remember things either if you were her, which I think is a whole lot of bullshit, too. I think she remembers everything. I don't buy her not remembering for a moment.
So that would be lying in court under oath. Not once, but 20 times, 30 times.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about I don't remember is, how do you prove it?
She doesn't remember signing documents. She doesn't remember negotiating production deals with China, distribution deals for her line of clothing. She doesn't remember that.
No, well, again, how do you prove that she's lying? You can't go inside her mind.
Well, with the Fifth Amendment, when you take the Fifth, you don't just say, I don't know what happened that day. I don't remember anything. What you're saying is, I'm not going to incriminate myself with what I do know. So a judge or a jury must infer from that answer that indeed you do know the facts of this case. You just don't want to incriminate yourself by admitting it. Consequently, you're guilty of what you're being accused of.
Right. And that's
not,
why she's
not if, but guilty as a result of pleading the Fifth.
It's a show at this point. I mean, he's already been found guilty, so it's all just a show. And I don't know how you can, you know, when you do the I don't remember, there's just no way that you can prove that whether she remembers it or doesn't, unless she walked outside the courtroom and starts talking on her phone and saying, well, you know, I really got them. I told them I didn't remember this. I didn't remember that. By the way, get those papers, you know,
into the shredder.
Yeah. If she does that and somebody videos her or tapes her or hears it and testifies to it, yeah, then maybe you got something.
So Father O'Leary, where does he get that 67 Cadillac? I do not recall.
I don't remember.
Do you have the keys?
I don't remember.
Do you park it in your parking spot at the rectory? I don't recall.
I don't remember. Maybe I left it in the municipal parking lot.
Is it a slant 6 or a V8? I just don't recall.
By the way, has anybody seen Ukraine lately?
Well, Putin's dead, so we don't have to worry about Ukraine.
Wow. How soon we forget, huh?
War has a way of reminding you that it's still going on.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll rear its ugly head. All right, Mikey.
That was a wacky Wednesday.
Yeah, well, you know, it was a Wednesday that had a little bit of hope to it. You know, this could have been a very different Wednesday. We could have been sitting here saying, "My God, Brashear went down in Louisiana, and you know, Ohio, you know, and the biggest loser of the night wasn't even on the ballot.
Who was that?
Youngkin in Virginia. I mean, all of his. I mean, he almost single-handedly turned it into a Democratic state.
He's a gifted man, quite a politician.
He not only did he lose his house, but he also turned his state senate into Democrat, where the Republicans held a majority. So now he's a guy who is a Republican governor with a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, and all of his ideas about how he's going to turn Virginia around is been shown for what they are. Just
not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my friend. Well, you know, Vinnie, the interesting thing about the last midterm election was exactly the view that we got of America. They were saying, no more of that. We're going to straighten this thing out. There's more of us than there are of you. And I know the polls right now, a year out, are going to be frightening for a little while. But I'm convinced that America will come to its senses, or it will be put on its knees and never be seen again. And those are your choices.
Well,
now, I know Donald Trump tells you the same thing: vote for me, or America will never be great again. But what he's saying is, vote for me, and America will never be seen again.
Well, we have a year to digest it all, to regurgitate it, and to spit it back out again. And I have a friend who says to me consistently that neither Biden nor Trump will be on the ballot in 2024. That both of these guys are not going to be there. That our choice will be between two different people.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, I think it's, but she is thoroughly convinced that, and she's a fairly astute observer.
And will the Republicans come to their senses, or will they just run Donald Trump's ghost for president?
No, they'll run a Trump like,
Mike Johnson.
Well, no, actually, she thinks it's going to be Nikki Haley. She's convinced that Haley has the.
I like Haley.
Yeah, I like Haley too. She's convinced that Haley has the money and the experience and the power to get on the ticket.
What experience does she have, except by lying in the United Nations on behalf of Donald Trump?
Well, she was governor of North Carolina for how long? For 8 years, I think.
A well-trained Labrador could be governor of North Carolina. No one would know the difference.
Yeah. So I don't know, and as far as the Democratic side, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen between now?
If it's not going to be Biden, then it's not going to be Kamala Harris. I don't know.
No, we know. We know it won't be. I don't know. I'm not sure about Biden, but I know it's not going to be Kamala. I mean, even if, God forbid, something were to happen to Joe Biden and she ascended to the presidency, I still don't think that the Democrats would run her.
I don't think she could beat the field.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there that she'd be able to beat. I mean, I hate to say it. I like her in several respects, but I don't know that she. I just don't know that she's got it. She don't have the it, and you got to have the it to be president.
Yeah, that wasn't the case with Millard Fillmore, but
that's a long time ago. But now you need it.
Now you need it.
You need it. Newsom has it.
Well,
Manchin, I think, has it.
But Newsom was married to Usay's wife for a while.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen.
That can't be explained.
That doesn't count anymore.
I think
somewhere Gary Hart's in some room going, what the?
It counts with me, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, it can't. No, yeah. We elected a guy who admits that he grabs women by the sexual organs. So,
on Fifth Avenue, just before he shoots them.
Yeah. All right. Listen, I will see you on for a Fractious Friday.
So be it. See you, Ben.
All right. If the Lord's willing, the creek don't rise. And then, of course, peace, love, and Manischewitz.
What a wine. What a sweet wine.
A good wine, Mikey. A good wine.